It all starts on a rainy day where the military general Beichen is standing in front of his father's grave. A soldier informs him that the executives of the Guang Corporation have been replaced and their location is unknown. Beichen orders for further investigation because now that he has returned, he plans to seek revenge for his father's death. The protagonist's wife, named Ming, gave her number to stay in contact and was going to pick him up later. This story starts 5 years ago, when Beichen's father suffered from a heart condition, and if he didn't pay $20 million for the heart surgery, he would die. However, the protagonist's family's assets were blocked by the bank and he wouldn't be able to get the money in time. He asks the doctor to perform the surgery first, but the doctor refuses because he won't work for free. The protagonist didn't know what to do because everyone was avoiding him, so he decides to go find his grandfather. However, upon arriving, his uncle named Jean doesn't let him pass and wouldn't lend him a single cent. Beichen confronts him because his father had previously lent him money to start his business, but Jean won't help him because he knows he won't be able to repay the borrowed money. The protagonist angrily demands that Jean returns the money his father lent him, but then he gets beaten up by some bodyguards. In the meantime, he receives a call telling him to go see his girlfriend to ask for a loan. Upon arriving at his girlfriend's house named Sichin, his friends mock him because he's in a miserable state as his father's 200 million was stolen. Despite enduring the insults, he searches for Sichin, but his cousin named Swan Joan kicks him into the pool to continue humiliating him. Despite enduring all that, he begs her to lend him money to pay for his father's surgery. She agrees to give him the money, but under the condition that they break up as a couple because she now likes Swan. This is because Beichen is now poor and she does not want anything to do with him. She throws the card at him so he never comes back. The protagonist, angry at all the humiliation, endures it and goes to collect the card. However, Swan Joan does not allow him to get it that easily, so he steps on the card to stop him. He then orders Beichen to act like a dog and bark 2 times, but the protagonist, now very angry, punches him, then takes the card and runs to the hospital. When he arrives, he pays for all the surgery fees, but it was too late because his father had already passed away. Beichen, in shock, does not accept the death of his father and starts to believe that it is a joke. He bothers the doctor and gets kicked out of the hospital. On the day of the funeral, some men from the Wang group arrive and beat up the protagonist because Beichen's father got involved with a woman he should not have, and the protagonist was born as a result of that love. After the beating, they threw him into the sea for feed him to the fish. 5 years later, Beichen returns as a very important general to take revenge. The soldier tells him not to become the son-in-law of the Wang family because he is now an important person. But Beichen refuses because Ming's father married his daughter to him out of guilt for how they treated him. He then presents himself to the Wang family with a low profile to reach the selfish people. After some time, we meet Guan, who goes to pick up Beichen reluctantly because her father ordered her to. Since they don't know that the protagonist is someone important, they begin to insult him because they think he is a waste of time. Meanwhile, Beichen talks to someone from the Chio family who promises to help him with anything he needs. They also offer him the Rongding company because 3 years ago, the protagonist had saved the old man's life. When his wife arrives, he changes his personality to a very cheerful one to pretend that he hasn't changed, which disappoints his wife and her driver. Her driver tells her that the Director General Chen will pick her up from her home because they have a meeting later on. Ming is somewhat scared and wonders why Director Chen is so much interested in her. On the other hand, Director General Chen plans to invest in the Xi'an company, which belongs to the Ming family, but not for free, as he wants something in return. Ming's mother agrees to give her daughter to him without Ming's knowledge, which angers her when she finds out. The mother is desperate because the Xi'an company is in crisis and needs an investment. Beichen offers to help, but they laugh at him because they don't think he is successful. The Director General Chen advises Ming to marry him to help him with Shiyu and for a better future. He then tries to touch her butt, but Beichen comes in to shake his hand pretending to greet him. As the grip was so strong, Director Chen screams in pain, and that's why he decides not to invest in Xi'an anymore. The 2 girls try to convince him to change his mind because without that investment, he was going to go bankrupt, so they order Beichen to apologize. But Director Chen didn't want a simple apology. So, to continue with the investment, Beichen had to humiliate himself by licking Chen's shoes and sign the divorce papers. However, Beichen goes out to call the Rong family and withdraw Director Chen Rongding's version. Then Director Chen receives a call from Rongding Company and happily thinks it's for something important. But they tell him on the call that Rongding Company will stop cooperating in business with Director Chen since he insulted someone he shouldn't have, which scares Director Chen. He kneels down and asks the protagonist to forgive him because he'll be doomed without Rong Ding's investment. The girls don't know what's going on and wonder why Director Chen is humiliating himself like this. Beichen decides not to forgive him, so he repeats the words that they are not on the same level to humiliate him. As Director Chen still has hope, he goes to Rong Ding Company to fix everything. Ming's mother often yells at the protagonist for doing something to Director Chen, but he pretends not to know anything. Ming tells him that it couldn't have been Beichen because he had just arrived in the city. They wanted to go to Rongding to find out what was happening, but they couldn't because they had a family meeting. Ming's mother yelled at the protagonist to leave the house, and he tried to convince her that he could help. Suddenly, he felt a pain from an old wound that had not completely healed and escaped to his room with an excuse. The mother remained upset, but Ming remained calm and told her that he would talk about the divorce with Beichen later. In the room, Beichen was cultivating with the Swanching scroll, which reduced the pain considerably to heal. He was thinking to find the other 8 parts of that scroll when he received a call from Liu Hole. Liu was Beichen's best friend in the city 5 years ago, and he invited him to a reunion of ex-classmates. But Liu Hole confessed that he called on the orders of Mike to get him to sign a contract with his company. Mike hated the protagonist because he was previously pursuing a sexy girl who was interested in Beichen. Knowing what was happening, he agrees to go, and at nightfall, at the meeting, everyone praises Mike for being a successful person. Liu asks him to sign his contract, but Mike, a little annoyed, tells him that he will do it when Beichen arrives. Then the protagonist appears, Mike thinking that he is still the same and will embarrass him for taking away his girl before. Right away, he starts calling him a loser because even though he went to do military service, he came back poor. So he wants to humiliate Beichen by giving him a job at his company, and everyone starts making fun of him. The sexy girl called Sin Rancha is happy to have ended things with Beichen because her current boyfriend is a businessman. And everyone continues with the insults. So Liu Hole becomes angry and decides to leave with the protagonist to not continue listening to them. But Mike tells him that if he leaves, he won't sign the contract, scaring Liu because his wife won't forgive him. Mike orders him and Beichen to kneel down and say they are losers. Liu had no choice because his wife threatened to divorce him if he didn't get an investor for his company, and she was going to take their child with her. So Liu was going to kneel down, but Beichen stops him. Mike makes fun of him for wanting to be a hero, but Beichen grabs a bottle and breaks it over Mike's head. This angers Mike, but Beichen kicks him into the table, scaring everyone else. Mike angrily yells that he'll make their lives a living hell because he's an important person and works with the Rongding Company. However, Beichen continues to humiliate him because no matter how much money he has, he's still weak. 5 years ago, Beichen humiliated Mike, and 5 years later, he can still do it. After the meeting, the best friends leave, and Liu congratulates Beichen for beating up Mike. Beichen changes the subject to the investment contract, but Liu doesn't regret that. Mike didn't sign because even though he didn't get an investor, he was happy to see Mike being humiliated without any problems. But he didn't want to go back home and starts crying because his wife will ask for a divorce and take their child with her. Beichen felt sorry for him and called the secretary of the Rongding Company. The protagonist tells her that he'll send his friend Liu to Rongding tomorrow to sign an investment contract and orders them to stop working with Mike. Liu thinks he's drunk because he doesn't believe him. Meanwhile, at the meeting, Mike was angry about the humiliation. He orders his men to take revenge on Beichen. At that moment, he receives a call from the president of the company where he works, who angrily fires him. Mike doesn't understand, but his president tells him that he offended the new president of the Rongding Company. Mike doesn't know how he offended the president of Rongding, but when he remembers that he has only offended Beichen, he gets scared. Upon discovering that Beichen is the president of Rounding, he seeks him out and apologizes for offending him. Now he believes what Beichen said, but the protagonist decides not to forgive Mike for his behavior. On his knees, Mike asks for a new opportunity because the contract with Rongding took him years to get accepted, as Mike was making a lot of noise, and the identity of Beichen could be discovered. So he forgives him, but orders him not to tell anyone about his identity. Happy and scared, Mike thanks him. Now Liu is convinced after watching this, and he talks about his company to Beichen, and since he considers him his friend, he thinks he'll help him. On the other hand, in the mansion, Ming is worried because the investment issue is not resolved. Then she is happy because Assistant Jiang sent her a message saying that Rongding will invest in Xi'an Company. At the same time, she wonders why they agreed to invest in Xi'an, but to avoid trouble, she leaves it. Then the protagonist arrives, and Ming asks to talk about the divorce, but Beichen doesn't want to talk about it. She offers to give him some luxury items and sign the divorce, but the protagonist doesn't accept because that doesn't help him. 5 years ago, when he hit Jaehan, some bodyguards chased him, but Ming stopped them. She was the only one who didn't make fun of his situation, so Beichen tells her not to talk about the divorce again. Before leaving, he tells her that marrying him was not a mistake. She is surprised because the protagonist has changed a lot, but she needs to focus on the board meeting because the heirs of the Ming family are now in dispute. Later, she goes to the Xi'an company for the meeting and is surprised because her grandmother also summoned Beichen. Then Wang Su arrives, who is Ming's cousin and also the head of one of the Ming family's companies. He mocks Beichen because he considers him a waste and doesn't plan to have his family support him. Ming gets angry and defends her husband, but Wang Su humiliates her because she is not much helpful to the family. When he touches her face, it upsets him, saying that if she sells her body, she could make more money than him. However, because he couldn't see well, he had touched Beichen inappropriately, and this made people think that Wang Su would seek revenge. After a while, the chairman of the Wang family arrived. She asked Beichen about his position in the military, and he replied that he was currently retired. After asking several questions, the chairman became angry because Beichen was just an ordinary person despite what he had said. Then, the president began the meeting and talked about how they were able to save themselves from ruin with Rongding's investment. However, as that was only temporary, they decided to join Rongding's pavilion project. They would send 2 clothing brands to participate in the bidding process. However, if Xi'an's company didn't do well, the chairman would order it to merge with her brother company. This upset Ming, who felt that the chairman always favored men over women. She was afraid that if she failed, the chairman would remove her from her position as president. Ming decided to remain silent, but she was angry. She hoped that if she took control of the company, she would seek revenge on her brother for what happened earlier. Seeing that things were going poorly, the protagonist decided to take charge of the Rongding company. In the afternoon, Beichen and Liu went to Rongding to discuss their investment. When they arrived, they met Beichen's ex-girlfriend, who made fun of them for thinking they were security guards. Beichen ignored her, but she told them that she worked at Rongding because her boyfriend was the administrator who arranged the most pleasant position for her without any interview. She didn't even work, she just collected his salary every month. Later, her boyfriend and some members of Rongding arrived. Zinran asked her boyfriend to hire Beichen as a security guard. He asks from Beichen to submit registration form on desk with 2,000 bribe fee for security guard job. Soon after, Beichen assistant arrived and congratulated Beichen on becoming the new president of Rongding company. Since Zinran boyfriend took advantage of his position, Beichen ordered them to be fired and to take legal action on them. Later, when going to his office, Sam Mayo tells him that they have already signed with the luxury company for the investment. Additionally, she gives him a list of powerful companies that want to participate in the pavilion project. Mayo was about to talk to him about those companies, but Beichen stops her because he has other plans. At the bidding event for the pavilion project, many presidents of companies seek to enter, which scares Ming because they will have competition. If any of them enters the project, they will become richer. Then Wang Su arrives and makes fun of his cousin because she has failed in almost all her investments until now. Secretary Mayo announces that the results are ready, and chief of Wang Group Wang Su wins the bid. Ming complains because the results were not announced publicly. However, Mayo tells him that Rongding can choose whoever they want as the organizer of the event. She then gives Wang Su the contract for the project to sign, and he signs it without reading it. Later, Wang Su shows the contract to the chairman, who congratulates her grandson. However, Ming is sad because his company will be handed over to Wang Su. The chairman reads the contract and gets angry because the Xi'an company will only provide resources for the project. In exchange, the Xi'an company will be the partner of the Rongding company in the project, making Ming the real winner of the bid. The chairman congratulates Ming and appoints her as the vice president of the Wang family. Ming is happy because with this important position, she could be the next chairman. However, the grandmother says that the Xi'an company will be handed over to Wang Su, and everything will be managed by him. She refuses and realizes that the chairman made her the vice president of the family just to take away her company. The chairman, in a way that seems kind, tells her to stay at home to be a good wife. However, Ming is not okay with it and complains because she's always left out for being a woman. The chairman slaps her and says that she's doing everything to protect her from suffering in the business world. Ming doesn't believe her and refuses because she and her father founded the Xi'an company, and she's not just going to give it up. The chairman feels ill from this response and collapses, and the others blames Ming, thinking that she's being arrogant for winning the bid for the pavilion project. Due to the pressure from the people, she agrees to hand it her company, and the chairman is happy because she faked feeling unwell. That night, Ming is very sad, and Baiken wonders if his wife will give up so easily. Then, she receives a call from Director Chen, who tells her about a multi-million-dollar business deal, and how the president of the Kishin company is interested in her. Since the chairman took everything from her, Ming decides to try her luck with that business and accepts. She then decides to meet Director Chen in person, and Baiken overhears the conversation, wondering how his wife can be so foolish to work with someone who mistreated her. When she arrives, she meets Lu Feng, the president of the company, who silently follows her to take care of her. Ming feels that something is not right because they want to work with her even though she has nothing to offer. Director Chen gives her a contract to read, and he hides a sleeping pill in the wine that Ming is drinking. However, Baiken sees the pill and tries to prevent her from drinking it. Nevertheless, he is surprised because his wife did not notice the pill, so she throws the wine in their faces, and they become angry and try to subdue her. However, they remember the pill and vomit. Angry, Ming leaves the meeting, and Baiken is happy to have such an intelligent wife. The two go to Ming to humiliate her, but Baiken stops them, and they apologize, but he does not forgive them.